I lived 92 years to understand one rainy morning that my children love not me, but the numbers in my will. For 30 years, I built this empire, denying myself everything. And yesterday, I heard them in the next room, whispering about who would take my mansion while I was still trying to catch my breath after a coughing fit. Do you know what I did? I picked up a pen and crossed every single one of them out, down to the last cent. Listen to me carefully, because I will teach you how to tell the difference between love and the greedy waiting for your death. My name is Mikhail. I am 92 years old, and I am sitting in a room where the silence is so thick you could touch it with your fingers. I was born in 1934 near Rostov, in a house where the only furniture was a bench and a large stone oven. My memory still holds the smell of hot dust on a country road, and the taste of black bread that my mother divided into 5 portions as carefully as if it were bars of gold. In 1945, we arrived in America, and I, a 10-year-old boy, stared at the skyscrapers of New York with the same mixture of terror and hunger you feel when facing a predator. I swore then that I would never again divide bread into portions, and I would never let my family know what real cold feels like. My first steps in this country were on the docks of Brooklyn, unloading fish until my palms bled. I remember how the salt worked its way into the cracks in my skin. That pain was my only teacher. It told me that only those who can clench their teeth survive in this world. In the evenings, I learned English from scraps of newspaper I found in garbage bins, dreaming of the day when I would not be unloading goods, but owning them. By 30, I had my own small construction firm. My first truck meant more to me than any holy thing. I worked 18 hours a day, eating cheap canned food at the job site, saving every dollar I could for the next expansion. I built houses for thousands of people, but the cruel joke was that I never managed to build a real home for my own soul. Every brick in my business was laid at the cost of a missed birthday, a bedtime story left unfinished, or a dry kiss on a forehead before sleep. My wife Anna tried to stop me. She was my only anchor in that ocean of ambition. She would sit in the chair across from me when I came home past midnight and simply look at me with those enormous grief-filled eyes. "Misha, you are hoarding metal but losing time," she would say in her quiet singing voice that still carried our southern accent. Her hands, always smelling of flour and vanilla, would reach for me, but I would pull away, claiming exhaustion and important calls. I shouted that I was doing all of this for her and for our sons, Alex and Victor. But the truth was, I was doing it for my fear. That fear was my invisible warden. It whispered that if I stopped even for a minute, poverty would grab me by the throat again. I wanted my sons to walk through the world as if they owned it. I did everything to pave their way with $100 bills. Alex and Victor grew up in a world where every desire was fulfilled before they had time to feel it. I erased the concept of earning from their lives and replaced it with the concept of receiving by right of birth. I bought them yachts and sports cars to compensate for my absence at their football matches and school concerts. I remember Alex scored his first important goal while I was closing a deal in Chicago, not even picking up the phone when he called. Instead of holding him and saying how proud I was, I simply mailed him a check for a new sound system. I thought I was buying their love. In reality, I was simply paying for their complete indifference to me as a person. I had become for them a cash machine with a grey head, a function that was supposed to work reliably and pay out dividends on demand. When Anna was gone, my world finally lost its color, turning into a sequence of grey office days and cold evenings. At her funeral, I stood by the coffin and realized I did not know what her favorite flower was, because I had always simply ordered my secretary to send the most expensive bouquet. The sons arrived in their expensive suits, and I saw for the first time how they checked their watches during the farewell service. They were not in pain. They were simply bored, as if attending a drawn-out board meeting where the agenda no longer concerned them. That evening I returned to my enormous mansion alone and sat in the kitchen for a long time, trying to remember the smell of my mother's bread, but only smelling sterile, expensive cleaning products. I wandered through 30 rooms, and each one felt like a cage I had designed and paid for myself. I realized that in 40 years, I had not made a single friend with whom I could simply sit in silence without discussing contracts. For the last 10 years, I have lived like a prop in their lives, taken out of storage only on holidays to maintain appearances. My grandchildren do not climb into my lap. They do not ask me to tell them about the war or about my journey to America. They ask for the Wi-Fi password and new gaming consoles without looking me in the eye when I hand them their gifts. I see my own reflection in them, cold, calculating, and completely empty, and that truth burns me from the inside. We talk at the table about stock prices, new taxes, real estate, but nobody ever asks me, "Dad, are you not frightened to fall asleep alone?" Every "how are you feeling" sounds like a hidden question to my doctor about how much longer this old heart will hold out. I see how they exchange glances when I begin to cough, and in those glances there is no sympathy, only impatience and the calculation of upcoming funeral costs. My success became my execution, and I built the scaffold myself. Yesterday's attack became my moment of truth, the icy shower that washed away the last of my illusions. I lay on the sofa in the living room, struggling to breathe, and through the fog in my eyes, I saw their silhouettes in the corridor, where they thought I could not hear them. My hearing, despite my age, in that moment became sharp as a razor, catching every word, every betrayal. Victor was whispering to his brother that the pool in this house needed to be filled in because the maintenance was too expensive in winter. Alex grumbled that my library of rare editions would have to be hauled to the dump to make room for a modern gym. They were not discussing how to save their father. They were discussing how to optimize the costs of my inheritance while I was still fighting for each breath. Those words were colder than the January ice in Brooklyn Harbor, and they finally destroyed the fragile hope I had nurtured all those years. I understood that my death for them was not a loss. It was a long-awaited investment project that would finally pay out. I lay there looking at the crystal chandelier and understanding that each of its pendants was worth more than all the love they felt for me. In that moment, I felt neither rage nor offense, only a strange, almost mathematical clarity and an icy calm. I understood that I myself had raised these vultures. I myself had taught them to measure everything in dollars per square meter and annual interest rates. I called my lawyer Harry directly from the intensive care unit, while my fingers were still trembling from weakness. I told him, "Harry, prepare the papers. We are going to do what nobody expects. We are going to restore justice." Harry was silent for a long time. He had known me for 40 years and understood that when I spoke in that tone, there was no road back. He arrived an hour later with a folder of documents, and with each signature, I felt the 10-year-old boy from Rostov come alive inside me again. I cut them out of my life as coldly as I once cut competitors out of the New York construction market. This was my last battle, and perhaps the first one in which I was defending not my money but my human dignity. This morning I placed the final signature on the document that turns my sons into ordinary people who must earn their living themselves. My entire estate, all 12 million, 3 mansions, stocks and collections, now officially belongs to a foundation helping orphaned children. I left Alex and Victor $50,000 each, enough to rent a place and buy a modest car if they choose to work. This was my last lesson for them, my final fatherly gesture. And I know that tomorrow, when the lawyer reads this to them, they will curse me, but I no longer care. Because their curses will be more honest than the poisonous care they traded in for decades. I see you now. You are sitting in front of a screen and perhaps already opening a new tab to check your bank balance or your work email. You think that if you earn 1 more million, your children will be protected and will be grateful to you forever for that foundation. Stop for a moment. Look at your hands. They are not yet as dry and transparent as mine. There is still life in them. Do not turn your family into a corporation where love is distributed according to shares and future inheritance stakes. The most valuable thing you can give your loved ones is not a house with 10 bedrooms. It is your time. Simply sitting beside them and listening to their stumbling stories. Children will not remember the make of the car in which you picked them up from school. They will only remember whether you were there at all. They will not appreciate the cost of your suit, but they will remember to the end of their lives the cold of your absence at their most important celebrations. Money is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master, and if you let it take the seat at the center of your table, it will devour everything living around it. Be a human being before you become a millionaire. Otherwise, at the end of the road, you will discover that your millions are just dry leaves on your grave. The world I built with such stubbornness turned out to be a house of cards, collapsed by one honest and brutal whisper in a corridor. I long believed that success meant your name on the front page of a newspaper. Now I know that success is when your child calls you just to talk. My 12 million cannot buy me the right to one honest look from my sons, because we spent too long practicing how to lie to each other. Do not repeat my path. Do not become the architect of your own loneliness while you still have time to rewrite your story. Look at your children right now, if they are nearby, and try to see people in them rather than successors of your business or heirs of your capital. Ask them what they are afraid of, what they dream about, what makes them laugh until they cry, and listen to the answer as if your life depended on it, because in reality it does depend on it, on whether you die surrounded by loving hearts or in the sterile silence of a luxurious tomb. Do not wait until my age to understand these simple things. Start changing your life today, this very minute, while the sun has not yet set. Time is the only resource you cannot get back, no matter how many zeros are in your check. I am sitting in my study on the 40th floor, looking at the lights of the city at night. They look to me like a scattering of cold, soulless diamonds. On the table in front of me lies a piece of black bread that I bought today from a small shop on the edge of town, and its simple smell brings me home. I slowly chew this bread, and its rough taste seems more refined to me than all the delicacies I have ever tried. In this bread is my truth, my memory of my mother, and the purity that I once traded for the glitter of false gold. I turn off the light in the room, and the darkness gently embraces my shoulders, giving the peace I have not known for many decades. I am not afraid of what tomorrow will bring, because tomorrow I will finally be free from the expectations of my heirs and the weight of my own empire. I will close my eyes and imagine that I am that 10-year-old boy again, running across a dusty field toward my mother. In my hands there is nothing but this piece of bread, but in my heart is an entire universe, unpoisoned by greed and calculation. In this darkness I finally feel truly rich, because I no longer owe anyone anything. The city below continues its mad race, while I simply sit here and breathe in the fragrance of silence, knowing that my last choice was the right one. Live so that your home smells of laughter, not only of expensive perfume and the waiting for an inheritance. Goodbye. Now between me and this world there is nothing but this black bread and the endless night.